Start off with you. Talk to the camera, please.
My name is Jack Lombard. I'm South Carolina right now. I've been working on the Mark II plan kit for I don't know, 10, 11 years now, I guess. Basically, to the plans, the only thing I've done different is I've added counterweights to the elevators on the outboard side so they're balanced. And I don't know if that's going to make any difference or not, but other than that, it's pretty much for the plans, and hopefully another year or a year and a half we'll be flying. we hope.
Good. Okay, who else did we miss this morning? Hands, please. George. Briefly now.
For you, I'll be brief. My name is George Gaston. I'm building a Mark II in South Louisiana. And the only thing I've done differently, I tried vacuum bagging the wing and canard, and it came out, I guess it came out okay. I'm happy with it. The other thing I found out is there was a caution on this new Hexcel epoxy on it will pick up water. Well, in Louisiana, we have plenty of that, and boy, does it. I won't put it in an epoxy pot because it will pick up so much water. So beware of that.
George, the weight you ended up with on your wing and canard?
Have no idea, but I know I can take the canard and put it under my arm and carry it. I figure I saved 6 to 8 pounds a side, because what I did is I weighed what I took off the canard in the bleeder fly. I took the bleeder fly and I figured half of what I took off was epoxy, half of it was material. And I had about 8 to 10 pounds of peel ply and big bleeder fly that I took off, so I figured maybe 4, 5, 6 pounds. The main benefit of vacuum bagging is I don't have any bubbles. It is smashed down, and every little imperfection in the foam can be seen. In other words, in having the luxury of having fill underneath the cloth and taking that little dimple out, or if you've got this little scratch or something, if you just lay it up and let it air dry, you won't see that. Put 15 to 20 inches of vacuum on it and you will see every single thing you do. And I have some pictures. I didn't bring the album with. It's out. It's not going back to the motel. I'll bring it. If anybody's interested, I'll bring it tonight. I think you can see some of the imperfections in it. So the caveat of this is your core must be perfect. You cannot settle for any imperfections in the core. So you'll spend 3 times longer on the core. And the cost I figure was about $50 a side to do it. So it doesn't run up the price much.
If you have an imperfection in the core, can you micro then?
You have to micro and let it harden before you
harden.
Right. You cannot put. I think the plans call for when you start your layup, you fill the core, you slurry it, and then any imperfections you slap some stiffer micro on, then throw the cloth on, do your thing. Well, you don't do it that way, because I tried the first one I did, and it just pushed that micro right out of there. I've got some nice little dimples in there, and they'll fill. I mean, there's nothing abrupt. But you've got to fill the core first. And something else everybody's found out, the faster you work on it, from the time you cut your cores, you lay it up, the less holes you're going to have in your cores. So that works.
You get trays with the fuel epoxy?
Yeah, I fill about 3/4 of a gallon on it.
Yeah, have you had any problems with fuel lines?
I had one case where it bubbled under. I think it started to exotherm and raise the moisture and everything else. Got a little bit of I got it early on the bubble. So I smashed it down. That didn't fix it, and I injected some micro underneath it. But it bubbled where I did not expect it to bubble. The other problem with it, it is white. It is clear, and it's hard to see. And as a result, there's one area I've got a small, I call it a dry layup. I've never had a dry layup before. But it laid up a little bit dry. It's not enough to where I'm going to reject the parts, but it's drier than I like it to be. You can see a little more fiber than you like.
But it doesn't smell.
No, it doesn't.
And it's wonderful. You can do layups inside your house. Get away.
Yes, but I wouldn't put it in if you're going to put it in the epoxy pump, now mine pumps down, I overhauled the pump, so I ended up using a scale. And that works fine. But if you're going to put it in a pump, like Spud said, put the dog house on it, put the temperature control light bulb in it, and you probably won't have any problems. But it will pick up. Right around the top of the hardener can, it's all white crystal. Where the drips are on the top of the can, it is turned white crystal. And I have about as much protection as this hanger has right now with the door open. So I don't have it's not dry. And a good day for us is 92 degrees and 80% humidity. So I have no choice but to work in the dry season is the winter, and now I'm in the 60 degrees with 60% humidity. So I have no choice but to work in weather.
Does it stay tacky for several days too?
No, it cleans up real good. It hardens, the working characteristics aren't a whole lot different than 6 epoxy too. On speed and time and tackiness, it does exotherm a little bit more.
Well, the stuff that I was using seemed to stay tacky for a couple of days.
I have not had that problem. I hit with sandpaper.
That's the impression I had. It took about 3 days before you could sand it.
When you did your layup, did you put slurry on there and then put your fiberglass on top of it and then vacuumed it down? Or did you let the slurry harden?
No, I slurried it, put the cloth on it. I use tri-ply. Put the cloth on it. Just follow the instructions. In other words, you do everything you're supposed to do, just like you're going to do a regular layout. But you don't have a couple luxuries. One, there's no knife trim on this thing. You can forget a knife trim.
Oh, yeah?
Because it's going to be hard before you can unbag it. Then Alexander sells a vacuum bagging supply starter kit. I'm going to shut up. I'll be quiet in a minute. I see Spud getting panicky there. They sell a starter kit that has enough material to do one side, which is $50. You don't need quite as much. And you follow the instructions they give you. You peel ply it, then put the bleeder ply on there. Try not to let the bleeder ply come in contact with the, it'll stick. Believe me, it'll stick. You won't ever sand that stuff off. Then you put a bag around it, seal it up with tape, and draw it down with a vacuum. And a vacuum cleaner is not good enough. You have to use a good heavy-duty vacuum pump. And what I used was a converted air conditioning compressor. You've got a picture of that. So. There's an article in the newsletter that I wrote, a year and a half ago, on how to do it. And if you're real industrious, you can do it, but there's some second thoughts on this because of the tri-ply versus the uni, et cetera, et cetera. The now suggestion is don't vacuum bag it, go back to the uni and use the old hairdryer trick. Peel ply and hairdryer, and you'll probably come out almost as light. But I know I've got some fairly light services, but it took an extra, I got $200, $300 in it, extra dollars, and an extra 2 to 3 hours per layup. So it's a little more time.
Okay, let's move on to the next, Tom.
Tom Reed, Washington. I followed this gentleman the other night, did a vacuum bagging on the wing, the canard, and the bulkheads. For the bulkheads in particular, it works out quite well. Just use a perforated piece of visqueen, put nails on about 3/4 centers on a block, then fold up a bunch of visqueen and hit it with a hammer. So there's your bleeder cloth. And used this material, this fluffy material they use in comforters that women make up. And it really sucks the excess resin out of there. Now, like you said, you can't unbag it and get it for a green trim. But I found that the Dremel tool will cut that stuff a day or two later, and it's no problem at all. Give you a nice, clean trim. I don't know how much I saved. I think my wing weighed about 70 to 75 pounds, and my canard weighed somewhere around 90, 95. It's a Mark II configuration. I use chromoly U-channels that I fabbed up rather than the aluminum in that Mark II socket configuration. I did go to a 1/4-inch bolt in the steel gear legs that I'm using. And I opened them up and put a sleeve of nylon in there so that, in anticipation of any flexing, so that it don't wear on the cap's head screw that goes into the nut plate. Another 5 years, I'll have it licked.
Bob Johnson, building a Mark II. I've been about 10 years on it. I've got the wings ready to paint, just about ready to paint the fuselage. And just put it together and start taxiing. So maybe get close to the end of the tunnel here.
Once we get up, what we're doing, we're getting an update of the building. Tell us where you're at on your project. Who you are, where you're from, where you're at on your project.
Oh, Jack Levitt, my partner here, Ray Saxton, built the Mark I. Broke a zero weather, did a wheel on a first landing, flipped a Mark II, had rut cut from the Mark II down to the hoop gear, and had to sell because I couldn't hear it fly anymore. And it flew great, just ground handling has been the only problem. This wheel. Rick flew it from it the first time, and he said it flies great. He's just got a wheel problem. So we found out that, by the way, when you build in a home, move it to the airport, that canard changed somehow, and that right wheel was a 1/2 inch, 5/8 of an inch ahead of that left wheel. And it was pretty anxious to start to run. But it's actuated real easy there. So it's a good idea to leave some means of checking. You're going to take it to an airport after you put it together. One of the big things that we found. Really scored. I tried to teach myself to be a tail dragger pilot in a plane that was wanting to go to the left all the time. So it was a problem. But anyhow, anything else I do? Okay, one thing I would recommend in the Mark II situation, like I was saying there earlier, that side load, if I was building a box for a Mark II, I would put some 4130 just inside that box to take care of that side load. Because that gear laying right there definitely cut the box and built just the plane on. So, of course, that was a heck of a load. It was against the 4-inch deep hardened rut. And all dry New Mexico ground. And the water in the gear probably. So I don't know of anything else. We're working with both gears trying to get a little flex out of it, and after that's taken care of, we'll be back in the air hopefully. That's it. We're anxious to fly that thing. Flies great if we can get that landing gear running right.
Okay, any other builders over here that haven't introduced themselves from this morning?
Yeah, Bob Bircher from Minnesota. I don't know how my partner Pete Voss, he keeps copping off me all the time. He says, next winter we will build the airplane. It hasn't arrived yet. He finds something else to do, like make some money. We left Inkler yesterday, really run into the rain. We didn't get here until just an hour or so ago. And we're kind of fatigued. We haven't gotten very far. And we're both of us here to learn as much as we can, and hopefully we'll get with it here this winter.
Okay, any other builders that weren't around this morning? Okay, Ron Price, we got Dr. Ron, you first, and Doc, you last.
I'm Ron Price from Northern Illinois, and I have a signed-off, completed Dragonfly. All I lack is the pilot skills and the nerve. I'm waiting to get enough nerve. I have more taxi time than anybody in the organization.
Well, good. We'll get you some right seat time this weekend here, hopefully. Doctor, you want to stand up and give us an abbreviated version of your airplane?
Involuntary conversion to a Mark II. Can I say more? I've been freezing the design on the plane for the last 12 years. At this point, it has a hoop-style gear, it has a belly board, it has aileron servos, it has autopilot, Moran, GPS, moving map.
What's the weight?
What's the weight? 235 pounds. It has a...
What conversion factor? What conversion factor?
We were talking English pounds. It has a rotary engine in it, which I'm trying to marry to a airflow performance fuel injection system right now. Having some problems with that. Hopefully I'll get it solved next week. If not, we'll go back to carburetors that were originally there. It has a micro monitor looking at the engine. I put a vacuum system in. It has a micro encoder, and it basically has everything, including a kitchen sink. Because if the thing ever flies, I'm going to be so nervous I'm going to need at least a sink or a toilet or something like that. But the first time I flew it, the decollage is 3 degrees down. It flew with total back elevator. It flew beautifully. It was using a Happy Magnum Plus with the fuel injection system. And the fuel injection, that airflow goes beautifully with the Motor Happy 2180cc engine. I couldn't get my Ellison to work. Other than that, it's your basic Dragonfly. And my expected weight is somewhere in the neighborhood of the high 700 pounds. Before I did the conversion, it was at 825. The engine is 100 horsepower and it weighs 115 pounds. Add another 30 to 40 pounds for the liquid cooling and all the other stuff that goes in there. It's so light I have the thing out another 7 to 10 inches from the firewall to keep my CG. It's using a 4-blade warp drive propellant, which when I get the thing running at full speed we'll be able to tweak up and see if we need 5-blade or wider blades or something like that. And I'm looking forward to it. It's a beautiful hangar queen, and it should be interesting.
Thank you. Any other gentlemen we missed this morning? Okay. No, that's right. Al Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I'm Al Fitzgerald from Nebraska, and I'm building I have a Mark 1 that I'm converting to a Mark 3 with the Viking planes. And I'm lacking paint, gear legs, and that's about it. It'll be ready to go. Nothing fancy about it, just pretty well basic. I bought it from someone who had been working on it 10 years. I bought it 18 months ago and more or less replaced all the wiring in it and made a few small changes and did some work on the engine. And just waiting for some gear legs. We're ready to go.
What kind of an engine?
It's the Happy 60.
Okay, any other builders we missed this morning? Okay, I'm going to give it back to you, Patrick. I want to wind this forum down here. We ran over a little bit. Any other final questions we can address to Patrick or Robin here? And then before you speak out of the hangar, I've got a couple of comments about tonight. Patrick?
Well, basically the main thing I'd like to say is thank you, Spud. During the time that we were bouncing around the country, Spud kind of kept everything together and kept the builders in touch with everybody else, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's give him a hand.
Okay.
So it's yours.
Questions for Patrick? Or Robin over here? Quiet, Robin.
I'm good for Patrick. On a little darker side, what has been the experience that accidents have shown in flip-over accidents with regard to the roll bar capabilities of the rear turtle deck?
Have any of them tipped over?
Say that again?
Yeah, I'm concerned about the roll bar capabilities of the rear turtle deck, specifically with regard to a rollover accident.
Okay, right. We have no solid numbers on that, but what the question is, here again, what is the roll bar capability of the upper seat back bulkhead is what it would be called behind the passenger and the pilot. And what is the roll bar strength? Originally, it had a half moon shell with 3 other spokes inside. Okay, what is the strength of that is the question, okay? And then everybody else has, over the years, has made their own little modification, changed it to a doghouse, 2 upright, and some people have even taken it out completely. question Doc proposes here. What is the strength of the original? What is the strength of what it is now after it's been modified? Has anybody done any hard numbers? I know Viking hasn't done anything on that. Statistically, I can speak to the fact of all the airplanes that have nosed over, okay, because of the landing gear, forced landing or whatever, we haven't had any problem at all. No crush or failure whatsoever. But a lot of that has been stopped by the vertical fin when it goes over. That comes in contact with the ground before we actually come in contact with the top of that turtle deck. Well, now, the next question is, has anybody busted the vertical fin one way or another? And the answer is no. Of all the accidents and all the pictures I've got, I have had nobody bust the vertical fin off. We've had the tail break off, but that was more of a side impact load deal. Has anybody done any hard numbers or any load testing of that or so forth? I think it's a question that's completely up in the air, but we've had no failures that I know of. A couple people have talked about leaving that whole upper seatback bulkhead open. The only recommendation that's in that originally at the ½ inch, I'd recommend go do at least doubling that thickness, if not like 3/4 of an inch, you know, layups on both sides of that, so you're at least increasing that bowl-like type deal if you decide to leave it out. But other than any hard numbers, I don't know of any. Nope. But I know of no failures either, so it's one of those what-if questions. Anybody got any comments to that? Other questions?
How many flipovers were there as far as you know?
Oh, there has to be in regards to flipovers and what we have labeled for reported or non-reported instances. Okay, oh hell, there has to be 15, 18 situations, you know, where they have flipped over, you know, went into the mud. We've got iron Kinross. I mean, it's quite a few people, and we've had several people that have gotten to the water and flipped over in the water and stuff. Again, no failures.
What about getting out in that situation?
The question was, what about when you flip the airplane over, how do you get out? It has been a problem, okay? Here again, I think there's people where the canopy will only open so much, and there's more of you than there's an opening. A lot of people have forced the airplane, lifted the airplane up with their legs to their back to get out. We had one gentleman, Tom McCrutchen, out in Oregon, went into the water, and he was in shallow water, and it was so shallow he couldn't get the canopy all the way open. Here again, I haven't seen anybody other than there is a Q2 or Q200 out on the lot here that actually has a opening around the back that could be some type of an access port, but up until this point, it's hold your breath. Probably the best solution, maybe that would be, excuse the pun, probably the solution that would be that Rex kind of pounded home with me in the early years of, I was addressed, you know, in building it up. His recommendation is push, pull, or full pin on the front forward hinge. So if you pop it open in the back and you have to make a forward open canopy and you have to block all the way open, if you could pop those pins, release that, you can eject up, you can maybe jiggle it out, get it twisted sideways and get you out. That's all a solid point, but I do not see anybody using those push, pull, or release-like type pins in the airplane. Is there anybody here that has quick release on this? Bill, everybody might want to get out tonight or tomorrow and take a look at his, because it's a valid point. It's something to think about. And you get looking at all the other airplanes and so on. Go on out, look at Rob Tremonti's RV6. They have a mechanism where it's a pull and twist, and they have a canopy, forward-lifting canopy similar to the Dragonfly, but they have a pull where it releases the whole canopy in case of that situation.
Just last month, I believe, in Sport Aviation, there was an article on just that.
Good point.
On recommending what to do if you flip over with a bubble canopy, and it's worth reading it, because he recommended carrying something to cut your way out of the airplane, including an aluminum airplane. Last issue of Sport Aviation.
Yeah, everybody hear that? Yeah, last issue of Sport Aviation addressed that topic. Suggest we all get home here in the next couple of weeks to review that. Any final questions to the tailors? Again, hey, the Taylor, Rob and Patrick, we appreciate your comments.